Hi guys, so this is kind of a bit of a sad video for us really. I just wanted to talk a bit about the deaths that sort of happened recently in bodybuilding. I mean, there's been a lot over the last few years now. I know in every sport that happens, so there's no pointing fingers or anything like that, but I just wanted to do a video, to be honest, to try and be respectful to these people, because the first person I want to talk about is John Meadows, who I've never met, but I know worldwide he was loved, had unbelievable knowledge, just a great all-round guy by the look of it and what everybody said, and just an incredible passing there. I know the bodybuilding world has really mourned that, and you kind of feel it when you watch people like that a lot. Now, I just want to put my point across on that John, I don't want anybody to come back at me and go, you shouldn't be saying this. I don't know exactly what was wrong with John, but I know that he had some health problems before, and I think possibly part of it was like a hereditary problem. So I think when people are jumping in and saying it's down to drugs and things like that, particularly for someone like John, who's not competed for a while and things and more been coaching, I just think people need to, one, be a lot more respectful to people, and certainly the families and friends, because I think people do forget that even if someone died that was heavily using drugs, and I know certainly that's nothing to do with John's death, that's their choice, and if you watch these people, then what gives you the right to really abuse them and really sit and think that the family could see some of this stuff? And if you've ever lost a loved one, I've lost both my parents, it's devastating. And to have people talk about things like that when they're really not in the know, and that seems to be the way now, is just incredibly wrong. So I just wanted to do a little bit just to say how sorry I was to see and hear that, as most people are. And I think it was just very unfortunate health problem that he had, and it just took him way too soon, which is horrendous for him, and certainly horrendous for his family and friends. And we were all really upset about it, that are in this industry, if you want to call it that. So that was my first one. The second one is really sad, about George Peterson, who passed away a couple of days ago. Same thing. Everybody says the nicest man you could ever possibly meet. And that sounds really bad, but it's usually those type of people that things happen to. The bad bastards of the world just seem to get on. So I, again, can't speak on what happened because no one knows yet. The only thing I think that comes into people's minds with something like this is when it's so close to a contest, is maybe a protocol that was a little bit too much, combined with the stress of the diets and things. But not for a second am I sitting here and saying that, because I'm sure his coach is devastated. I'm sure everybody around him's obviously devastated, family, friends, and for anyone to say that is wrong. But the difference between George and John, I think, is because it was so close to a contest, that's what a lot of people are going to be thinking. And like I say, it could absolutely have nothing to do with any of that. I think the sad, horrible point was that it was on his own in his room, which I think really gets to you when you think about that, and again, that's nothing to do with his coach or anybody like that. It's just really sad, I think, when you sit and think about things like that, and I really, really hope he didn't suffer, as anybody, you hope for that. But my point there was, again, people's going to jump in assuming, and like I say, I know I've just said that so you could think I'm assuming that. I'm not, but I'm just saying I think possibilities are different when it's very so close to a contest, because as we know, there's been a coach recently that gets a lot of ladies ready that's really been accused of pushing protocols way too far, and people have died. Again, I don't know this person, I don't know what's true and what's not true, so I'm not sitting here pointing fingers, but I do know that we are pushing things way too far, because someone dying is way too far for a plastic trophy. And people can't really sit and say, well, they're going beyond now, because a lot of people are not reaching conditionings anywhere near that of the 90s and things like that. And I know I'll get stick for that, but I'm really not bothered. You know, that's a fact. Most people in bodybuilding will admit that that's a fact. I'm not saying people are achieving unbelievable conditions, but what I mean is they're certainly not achieving better conditions. And people back then were not, yeah, people got poorly and things have happened later in life for them, so you could say that's the more robust than they've done, because it can be down to that with people's bodies. But it's just happening a little bit too often at the moment. And again, it can be just health conditions and other factors. But I think if we're honest in this sport, a lot of the time we know deep down that things are being pushed way too far. And none of us are doctors. You know, none of us can sit here and say, you know, I gave this person this and I knew what I was doing. You don't know, you're not a doctor. So I'm not saying that people don't have more knowledge possibly than a doctor on these drugs, and I'm sure they do, without question. But I think there's a point where they're really playing with fire. Let's add a little bit of this, you know, we'll push it a little bit further for this show. And the sad point with that is half of the time they look worse, or they may be 5% better. Now you could say at that level it's a big difference, but 99.9% of the time they're 15 to 20% worse. So is it worth the risk? And is it just even worth the risk that you're even going to look better? Because most of the time you really don't. You know, so I just wanted to, me and George both really just wanted to do a little video on this of how sad it really is and how frightening it is, because my point has always been this: I've done shows, I've got people ready for shows, and I've pushed things way too much. As you guys know, I'm natural, always been natural. I know people don't believe it, but I have. I've done stupid things, you know. I know people come back at me this, I've had that before, but I once did 4 days where I didn't drink any water, just to see what that would do before a contest. And trust me, it didn't make me better. I was very lucky that I won the show. I was still very dry, but that could have gone horribly wrong, mainly for my health. But two, you know, your body's always trying to reach homeostasis, so you push things too far, your body releases aldosterone, everything, whatever, you know, to balance off, and you look worse. I was very fortunate that I didn't look worse, but most people would be, or probably end up in a hospital bed. I was not great after the show, you know, hold my hands up to that, but I pushed boundaries of that without taking diuretics, you know, and things like that, which is taking it to a whole new, not a whole new level, but another level of, because people are doing water depletions and things and then adding that on top. You know, they're putting loop diuretics in, which are very unsafe, along with, you know, your standard diuretics, which some are potassium sparing, etc. But again, your body will always try and find homeostasis, and if things are way off, there's going to be big problems. There really is going to be big problems, especially when there's a whole host of other chemicals been going in for a long time, and such a strict, severe diet, lots of exercise. You know, you're already in a very weakened state. So again, no pointing fingers, but you can get in shape without doing this. Don't let anybody tell you can't, because you can. You really, really can, but you've got to be willing to work hard, both in and out of the gym. And I think if you're not willing, if you get a coach, my point really was going to be this: if you get a coach and all they're doing is increasing your drugs, then that ain't a great coach. I'm really, really sorry, but it's not, because their only way of getting you where you want to be is through chemicals. You know, I would want anybody or myself, if I was getting someone ready for a show, to be in shape because of nutrition, training, cardio. The drugs, if they're using them, would be an icing on a cake. You know, that the problem now is the drugs are the cake, as we know, even off season as well. So I think if someone's really steering you in the right direction of nutrition and the other factors when it comes to exercise, that's the best point. You know, then drugs, just be very, very careful. I'm not saying don't use them. You know, it's none of my business what people do, but, you know, for a plastic trophy, think about it, you know, because you would be far better taking 4 shows to get the result you want and still being here and still be healthy and have longevity, than being very ill, never being able to train again, or worse than that, by pushing the envelope just for that one show. So please be careful, guys. Please show respect to people's families and friends. that this has happened to. And be careful who you point the finger at. Like I said, I'm not pointing the finger at anyone, because some we don't know, and some I don't know these people, so I don't know what's true and what's not. But we certainly do know now that a lot of protocols, you know, I've been there when people's been doing it. The amount of drugs is beyond belief. And shall I bob this in? Shall I bob that in? I get messaged a lot over that, and it's not the way to go. It's really not the way to go. But a lot don't want to hear the truth of the hard work. So please be careful. Please check who you're working with to a degree. You know, if they're there for their main concern should always be your health before winning a contest. But enjoy it. You know, push yourself as much as you can. But let's be able to do this for a while rather than just once. Okay, take care, guys, and we'll see you soon.